6 ordinary people, floating above the thin blue haze of Earth, gazing back at the curve of our home planet. For a few minutes, every dream of childhood adventure, every science fiction fantasy, is suddenly, shockingly real. This is what billionaire Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin are selling. And this May, 6 more paid passengers joined the exclusive club of civilians who've crossed the final frontier, if only for a moment. But beyond the headlines and viral videos, a question looms. Is this the dawn of a new era where space becomes accessible and impactful for all of humanity? Or just a playground for the rich, a technological marvel with little real benefit? In this video, we're diving past the surface to examine Blue Origin's latest feat, what it means for technology, business, and the future of space, and who's really benefiting. On May 31, 2025, under the piercing Texas sun, a sleek, reusable rocket called New Shepard thundered off its pad. On board, the NS-32 crew, dubbed the Pathfinders, each had a story as unique as their journey. Mark Rocket, CEO of Kia Aerospace and the first New Zealander ever to reach space, took his place beside world travelers like Jamie Alleman, who has visited every country on Earth. There was Jesse Williams, an entrepreneur who's conquered 6 of the world's tallest peaks, Paul Jarvis, a childhood rocket enthusiast and avid explorer, Gretchen Green, a radiologist who began her space dreams at space camp, and Amy Medina Jorge, a Texas educator who's championed student space experiments. These aren't career astronauts trained over decades. They're passionate, dedicated, wealthy civilians. For about 3 weightless minutes, they soared beyond the Kármán Line, the internationally recognized boundary of space, 100 kilometers up, escaping gravity's grip. "It was perfection," Gretchen Green said after landing. "There are very few things in life that are true perfection. When I looked out at space and back down to the Earth, it was perfect." But what did it take to get there? Blue Origin began its journey nearly 2 decades ago, quietly working while Elon Musk's SpaceX grabbed headlines. In July 2021, Bezos himself rocketed up on the first crewed flight, promising that suborbital space tourism would soon be a transformative economic engine. The company's rocket, New Shepard, is a pioneering piece of technology, fully reusable, capable of flying again and again, launching from a remote Texas outpost. Each mission lasts about 10 minutes, with passengers experiencing weightlessness and a view that, as some say, changes your life. Since that first flight, Blue Origin has launched 12 crewed missions and flown 64 people above the Kármán Line. Its 2 capsules, RSS First Step and RSS Kármán Line, have become icons among the world's super-rich and space enthusiasts. Ticket prices aren't published publicly, but are rumored to run well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. On the surface, it's the ultimate thrill ride. But beneath the excitement lies a much deeper story about technology, competition, economics, and the unresolved tensions of a new era. Let's talk about the New Shepard rocket itself, a technical marvel in reusable systems. Unlike traditional rockets that burn up or crash in the ocean, New Shepard's propulsion module lands vertically, using rocket engines to touch down just a few miles from where it launched. The capsule floats down on parachutes and, in the final instant, a jet of compressed air softens the landing. Each launch, each recovery, refines techniques that could someday make space travel as routine as air travel. Blue Origin's mission isn't just about tourism. As CEO Dave Limp explains, there is an insatiable demand out there for human beings who grew up thinking about space and want to get to space, but it's still very hard to do right now. New Shepard isn't just a ride, it's a laboratory, a test bed for rocket engines, reusability, life support, and automated capsule systems. The BE-4 engine, first tested on New Shepard, has now powered the first stage of United Launch Alliance's Vulcan rocket, a major step for U.S. space power. From a business standpoint, Blue Origin's ambitions are vast. In 2024, the company secured its first national security space launch contract, breaking into the lucrative government and defense market. Its next-generation heavy lifter, New Glenn, promises to compete with SpaceX's Falcon Heavy and Starship, launching massive satellites and cargo to orbit. Beyond that, projects like the Blue Moon lunar lander and the planned Orbital Reef space station could reshape exploration and commerce in space. Yet for all these achievements, critics question what suborbital tourism flights really accomplish. Are we advancing technology or just giving billionaires a playdate with weightlessness? Environmentalists point to the carbon footprint of rocket launches, while social commentators note the exclusivity, a seat on New Shepard is inaccessible to all but the wealthiest. As Lori Garver, former NASA Deputy Administrator, bluntly puts it, suborbital tourism flights do little to advance space technology or reduce the cost of access to space. They primarily serve as entertainment for the wealthy. There's also the matter of spectacle versus substance. Each launch grabs headlines: celebrities, record setters, teachers, entrepreneurs. For a brief moment, they float in microgravity, join the register of space travelers, and return to Earth as instant celebrities. But how much does humanity truly gain? Is it a stepping stone or a sideshow? However, others argue that every launch adds to a growing foundation. Laura Forchik, a prominent space analyst, notes, New Shepard provides valuable experience in reusable rocket technology, but its suborbital nature limits its impact on more ambitious space endeavors like lunar or Martian missions. That experience, refined reusability, rapid turnaround, human safety, and automated capsules could be crucial as Blue Origin pivots to larger, more difficult projects. The passengers themselves often emerge as passionate advocates for STEM education and space exploration. Mark Rocket's company, Kea Aerospace, is developing stratospheric UAVs to monitor environmental change, a direct application of aerospace expertise. Amy Medina Jorge, who's guided over 60 student space experiments, returned to her classroom ready to inspire the next generation. For the 6 NS-32 crew members, their flight was more than a luxury. Each described it as a transformative, even spiritual experience. Jaime Alemán called it an incredible ride, very moving, very spiritual, even better than I ever imagined. Public opinion, though, remains divided. For some, Blue Origin's launches are a hopeful sign, a technological leap, a symbol that space is open to more than just governments and military pilots. For others, it's a lavish distraction. The future of humanity is at stake, and we're giving joyrides to millionaires, as one social media commentator put it. Meanwhile, the commercial space race is heating up. SpaceX continues to push the boundaries with Falcon 9 reuse, Starlink's global internet, and bold Mars ambitions. Axiom Space, Sierra Space, and NanoRacks are all building commercial stations. Competition is driving costs down slowly, but major breakthroughs remain elusive. Even Blue Origin's CEO Dave Limp admits it's still very hard to do right now. Let's not forget the environmental debate. Every New Shepard launch burns liquid hydrogen and oxygen, which are cleaner than fossil fuels but still require significant industrial energy to produce. The rocket's carbon footprint is a fraction compared to airliners, but as flights scale up, so will their impact. Ethical questions swirl. Is it right to burn tons of fuel so a handful of rich adventurers can see the stars up close? Or is this the necessary price to pay for technological progress? There's also the all-important question, what's next? For Blue Origin, the real test lies ahead. Can they turn their suborbital success into orbital dominance? Will the new heavy-lift New Glenn finally make its long-delayed debut? And will projects like Blue Moon and Orbital Reef move from bold press releases to functioning hardware that changes how we live, work, and even manufacture in space? Phil Joyce, Senior VP at Blue Origin, emphasized the company's broader vision. We thank our customers for trusting us to give them the opportunity to appreciate Earth's fragility. The hope is that, as more eyes gaze back at our vulnerable planet, public support for environmental and technological progress will swell. But the stakes are rising and the competition isn't standing still. SpaceX is sprinting ahead, the Chinese space program is surging, and the window for Blue Origin to seize a leadership role may be closing. Will Blue Origin capitalize on its string of suborbital tourist flights or get lost in the shadow of its rivals? Can it convince both the public and policymakers that its missions offer real value, not just to a handful of paying passengers, but to all of us? As we stand here watching the Pathfinders celebrate their safe return, we're left with an urgent, uncomfortable question. Is Blue Origin building the launch pad for tomorrow's space age, or simply selling tickets to the world's most exclusive amusement ride? And most importantly, what will it take for commercial spaceflight to truly transform life back on Earth, not just for the privileged few who can buy a seat, but for everyone? In the next chapter, we'll explore Blue Origin's broader ambitions, looming challenges, and the race to create a real, sustainable business beyond our atmosphere. But what does Blue Origin's current trajectory mean for the rest of us, and for the future of space exploration itself? To answer that question, we need to look at the road ahead, the possible consequences, and the opportunities that might lie hidden in these high-profile, high-altitude joyrides. Let's zoom out for a second. It's now been over a decade since private space companies started turning dreams of civilian spaceflight into reality. Yet, for all the excitement, we're still in the early innings. Blue Origin has put 64 people into space on suborbital hops, a number that's both impressive and, in the bigger picture, minuscule. At this stage, their rockets cross the Kármán Line, grant a few minutes of weightlessness and a stunning glimpse of Earth, then return home. The emotional impact on those lucky few is undeniable. As radiologist and longtime space advocate Gretchen Green described her experience, "When I looked out at space and back down to the Earth, it was perfect." But can fleeting perfection fuel lasting change? That's the real test Blue Origin now faces. Behind the scenes, the company is at a crossroads. Industry analysts like Eric Berger from Ars Technica warn that Blue Origin must sort out its sluggish internal processes and advance at a faster clip if it wants to remain competitive. The shadow of SpaceX looms large, with Elon Musk's company already operating reusable rockets at scale, deploying Starlink satellites by the thousands, and chasing Mars with Starship. Blue Origin's answer? Go bigger, much bigger. The company is preparing for the debut of New Glenn, a massive, heavy-lift orbital rocket that could fundamentally reshape the commercial launch market. Unlike the suborbital New Shepard, New Glenn aims to carry large payloads and potentially even people into full orbit. Success here would give Blue Origin a seat at the table alongside NASA, the Pentagon, and the world's biggest satellite firms. The stakes are enormous. New Glenn's success could unlock new science missions, lower the cost of launching satellites, and create financial stability for Blue Origin's more visionary projects. Failure, or even significant delays, could see the company sidelined in favor of faster, more aggressive competitors. But there's more. Blue Origin isn't just aiming for orbits, it's setting its sights on the moon. The company's Blue Moon lunar lander is a key piece of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to return astronauts to the lunar surface and set the stage for long-term exploration. If Blue Origin can deliver a reliable, precise, and powerful lander, it could become a cornerstone of humanity's new lunar age. But that's a giant leap from 10-minute suborbital rides. Then there's the Orbital Reef Project, a plan to build a private space station in partnership with Sierra Space and others. Imagine an orbital hub for research, manufacturing, and yes, even tourism. Such a facility could change how we access space and foster entirely new industries. Yet, as with all pioneering efforts, the road is fraught with risk. The technical challenges are immense. The commercial space station market is rapidly crowding, with Axiom Space, NanoRacks, and others fervently building their own orbital platforms. Every delay in Blue Origin's timeline is a window of opportunity for rivals. And then there's public perception and ethics. While every New Shepard launch draws headlines and inspires hashtags, it also attracts criticism. Former NASA Deputy Administrator Lori Garver puts it bluntly, "Suborbital tourism flights do little to advance space technology or reduce the cost of access to space. They primarily serve as entertainment for the wealthy." The environmental debate is heating up too. Each rocket burn, while a technological marvel, leaves a footprint. As concern grows about climate change, both the optics and reality of luxury launches will come under increasing scrutiny. With only a privileged few afforded these experiences, questions about accessibility and social good won't fade away anytime soon. However, there is another side to this story, one that's easy to overlook. Every new technology begins as a luxury. The first cars, the first airplanes, the first computers, all were reserved for the rich. Over time, innovation, scale, and competition drove prices down and benefits up, eventually reshaping society. Will space tourism follow the same path? Blue Origin's leadership certainly hopes so. CEO Dave Limp notes, "There is an insatiable demand out there for human beings who grew up thinking about space and want to get to space, but it's still very hard to do right now." The hope is that today's 10-minute wonder becomes tomorrow's common adventure, or even a practical tool for science, education, and industry. Already hints of broader value are emerging. New Shepard is not just a tourist vehicle, it's a testbed for hardware and systems that could support future deep space missions. The capsule's systems, reusability, and human rating processes inform the development of more ambitious vehicles. The BE-4 engine, initially developed for Blue Origin's rockets, now powers ULA's Vulcan, a crucial step for American launch independence and the national security sector. There are also expanding opportunities for science and education. New Shepard flights have carried student-designed experiments, microgravity research payloads, and technology demonstrations. Amy Medina Jorge, one of the NS-32 flyers, has championed over 60 student space experiments. Her story embodies the hope that these flights aren't just about inspirational moments, they're about inspiring the next generation of innovators, engineers, and explorers. Each flight, then, becomes a tiny seed planted in the minds of students watching from classrooms, wondering if they, too, could one day reach for the stars. So, what does all this mean for you, the viewer fascinated by the cosmos but maybe not ready to spend six figures for a few minutes in zero-G? First, recognize that we're witnessing history in the making. The commercialization of space is still at its dawn. We're watching the groundwork being laid for what could become a truly spacefaring civilization. The debates over ethics, environment, and economics are crucial. They will shape the rules, priorities, and ambitions of this new era. Second, consider how technological revolutions often begin at the margins, with small, exclusive groups acting as the first customers, the early adopters. Their support subsidizes the research, development, and refinement needed for mass adoption. If Blue Origin and its rivals can deliver on their promises, suborbital hops might soon give way to orbital flights, lunar camps, and careers once thought the stuff of science fiction. If you care about the future of space, there are practical ways to engage. Support STEM education. Encourage programs that make space science accessible to all. Follow the progress of these companies, not just through the lens of flashy launches, but by paying attention to the incremental scientific and technological steps. Advocate for responsible policies that balance environmental protection with the drive to explore. Consider careers or volunteer efforts in aerospace, education, or advocacy that expand access to space resources and experiences. And above all, stay curious and critical. The next wave of innovation will need not just dreamers, but watchdogs, people who demand that new frontiers serve a broad public good. So, coming back to our core question, can Blue Origin transform brief, exclusive joyrides into lasting, widely beneficial progress? Or will it be outpaced by competitors and public skepticism? The answer isn't written in the stars. It depends on execution, vision, and the values we bring to this new space age. Blue Origin has the hardware, the money, and a passionate team. If it can accelerate its pace, avoid the pitfalls of bureaucracy, and expand its vision to serve more than just wealthy thrill seekers, it could become a true engine of progress. But the clock is ticking. SpaceX, Axiom, and even international players are raising the bar. Every delay, every technical stumble gives rivals an edge, and public patience is not infinite. Still, here's a secret fact most people miss. The biggest transformation in spaceflight might not come from the rockets themselves, but from what they inspire down here on Earth. Whether or not you ever strap in for a ride, the ideas, technologies, and ambitions unleashed by this new race to space could ripple through industries, classrooms, and cultures for generations. The future isn't just about who touches space first. It's about who benefits from the journey. So, next time you see a Blue Origin launch streak across a Texas sky, don't just ask who's on board. Ask what their flight means for all of us. Is it a spark that ignites something bigger, or is it just another fleeting spectacle? The answer is up to all of us, watching, questioning, and, one day perhaps, joining the adventure. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more stories about the past, present, and future of space. What do you think? Will space tourism ever become something for everyone?